Welcome to the weather forecast on SIA TU TV channel. Dear friends, a major storm system is going to impact the United States over the next few days, with significant severe weather expected to move from the Midwest and Ohio Valley back into the southern plains, and also impact the East Coast, where there is a chance for damaging winds, very large hail, and a few tornadoes. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that's going to impact the United States over the next 7 days. We'll start with what's happening across the country today. We're having a pretty big day with damaging winds across parts of the Central Plains and South. Please note we have a major storm system that's been moving in very early this morning, which is weakening as it moves into Missouri. But the remnants of this storm system are really going to be leading the severe weather threat today. We're going to have a low-pressure system moving through Iowa and Missouri this morning into the afternoon. That's going to help support the threat of all sorts of severe weather, especially the tornado threat that's coming back into parts of northeast Illinois, northwest Indiana, and southern Michigan, where I think there's a chance for some tornadoes. But that's going to depend on the storm system. Now, let's talk about the severe weather potential for the next few days. We'll start with today. We have an enhanced severe weather risk level 3 out of 5. That includes southern Michigan all the way down to southeast Missouri, just south of St. Louis. A slight risk from Detroit, Michigan back to Dallas-Fort Worth. A slight threat includes Texas and as far east as Pennsylvania, where all sorts of severe weather is going to be present today. That includes the threat of scattered strong winds to damaging winds. Large hail is also possible. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these early storms flares back up into Illinois or Indiana, producing hail between 2 and 2.5 inches in diameter. There's also a chance for a few tornadoes. If we have a 10% tornado risk that includes parts of northeast Illinois, northern Indiana, and southern Michigan, that's where I think the biggest tornado threat will be today. But anyway, a few tornadoes are possible anywhere from south of Oklahoma City all the way into central Michigan and as far east as around Cleveland, Ohio. As we head into Thursday, our severe weather threat continues to shift farther east, where all the severe weather threats will once again be possible. A major slight risk of severe weather from New England back into North Carolina. A marginal threat also includes Dixie Alley. I think the biggest concern across the board will be damaging winds. And if we end up with an increased risk of severe weather across parts of New England and also back into the mid-Atlantic due to damaging winds. Large hail is also a possibility, but that's not the primary concern. There's also a chance for a few tornadoes. I think the biggest chance of that is actually going to be in eastern New York, and there could be a little more localized tornado threat closer to Maryland. And one of the biggest things that I want to point out about today's setup is that our tornado threat is really going to increase throughout the late morning and early afternoon, so we'll probably start seeing tornado warnings this morning, but certainly after early afternoon is when I think the tornado threat really starts to increase. So I think our biggest tornado threat will be primarily in the early to mid-afternoon, but it will continue into the early evening back into Michigan, and after about 8 o'clock in the evening, I think most of the storms will weaken.
Our biggest threat is going to be strong winds here, but if any of the storms are able to stay contained, the tornado threat will be much higher because we have a lot of wind shear in this environment. By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the highest tornado threat will move into northern Indiana, mostly just west of Fort Wayne, and then by 5 o'clock, the highest threat will move into southwest Michigan, just outside of Kalamazoo. However, strong winds and hail are the main concerns for many of these storms. And then around 6 to 7 o'clock in the evening, we'll continue to see that line of storms move through Cincinnati, Dayton, and back into northwest Ohio, even through central Kentucky. Strong winds and isolated tornadoes are possible. If the storms are able to stay contained enough in Michigan again, there could still be a high tornado threat even around 7 o'clock tonight, moving back into central and southern Michigan just outside of Detroit. However, I think the severe weather will be mostly over as far as tornadoes go by about 9 to 10 o'clock tonight across the Ohio Valley as well as the Midwest. Then for places further south into the Ozarks and the Tennessee Valley, scattered showers and thunderstorms are possible throughout the late morning, early afternoon, mostly a strong wind threat. We could see a storm corridor forming again along the interstate here between Joplin and Missouri, but with the storms moving through this morning, it might just stabilize the atmosphere enough that nothing really flares up again here. So that would be good news. Hopefully that happens, and hopefully we don't see any crazy activity in the Ozarks. And then in the southern plains, we'll have some scattered showers and thunderstorms developing later this afternoon, mostly in central Oklahoma. If the storm crests back up over North Texas, we could even see a large hail or two, but overall the biggest concern here is going to be large hail and damaging winds. There's really little to no risk of tornadoes in Oklahoma and Texas. As we head back into the Northeast on Thursday, we're expecting some scattered showers and thunderstorms. That's mostly an afternoon risk. There's going to be a few sudden storms with strong winds and hail. Right now, it doesn't look like there's a super high tornado threat, but I think if we do see tornadoes, the biggest chance is right over eastern New York. And if you're further south in the mid-Atlantic, that scenario I think has the potential for a tornado or two near Maryland in the afternoon, around 4 to 5 o'clock. Note that we have a couple of storms back here in Maryland and Virginia. Those storms could produce tornadoes. But overall, I think the biggest concern is still going to be strong winds and hail. So again, if we see the threat increase a little bit in Maryland in the afternoon, and on Friday, our severe weather threat will start to decrease. I don't see a lot of severe weather really anywhere in the country on Friday, but maybe in the northern plains of the upper Midwest with some hail and wind. A trough will form over the Rocky Mountains as we head into Saturday and Sunday, but I think there's going to be enough low pressure to the east to keep most of the storms from forming on Saturday. On Sunday, there could be some severe weather again in the high plains, but right now, nothing really solid in terms of outbreaks or anything like that. And then on Monday, I think that's going to be our next big chance of at least some showers and thunderstorms that have the potential to produce all sorts of severe weather hazards, but mostly hail and wind anywhere from Iowa all the way down to New Mexico. Then on Tuesday and Wednesday, that pattern will continue. We're going to continue to see some showers and thunderstorms, and severe weather will continue across the Great Plains well into the middle and late next week. We will continuously update the storm situation in the next news. Please subscribe to the channel to follow. Thank you for watching the news on CIA TV channel.